New and emerging technologies and pedagogies are transforming the ways we teach and learn. Keeping up with such a fast pace of development is exciting, but it can also present challenges for schools and tertiary institutions. At the 2007 International Conference on ICT in Teaching and Learning, Professor David Murphy of Monash University in Australia presented his thoughts on the current challenges facing educators and how they can be tackled. He looks at the importance of providing an appropriate infrastructure to support new technologies in higher education. Finally, Professor Murphy gives examples of the ways in which his own institution, Monash University, has successfully faced up to the challenge of new innovations. He also illustrates how effective use of emerging technologies can greatly enhance the learning experience of students.
So, first up, what are the challenges that we face? And I'm not planning to talk about them all, but the particular ones that we really need to be thinking about. Now, first of all, Generation Y. I'm not sure whether you actually believe in Generation Y or not, and I wasn't sure whether I did or not. I mean, I'm from a different generation. I guess I'm from the baby boomers, and I think I'm pretty tech savvy. I use all the equipment. I've got a neat little mobile with a nice screen on it that I can do all sorts of neat stuff. So I'm there. Is there something different about Generation Y? Well, the claim is, of course, that there is something different. And I had this, if I can tell a little story, rammed home to me recently by my son. He's a student, although he's slightly older, he's in his 20s, he's actually at Monash. And the trouble with children these days, they stay at home too long, so we've been trying to get rid of him. So we've been encouraging him to go out and get a flat. You're on an allowance now, so you can afford it. So come on, Nick, don't just go around the neighbourhood, have a look online, go to the websites for the real estate agents, check them out, make yourself a list, then go around, have a look at some flats, and that'll be fine. Clearly he was paying very keen attention, as sons do. He didn't really say much. But a couple of days later, when I was at work, I got a phone call. Dad, I think I found a flat. Do you mind having a look at it? I said, Nick, you know, I'm a busy, hard-working academic. I can't just ponce off out of the office and go off to look at some flat that you've discovered. No, Dad, stop. Listen to me. I had a look at the flat. I had my mobile with me, so I took a quick movie of it. It's up on YouTube. Go and have a look at it there. And that's the difference. I would not have done that. A Generation Y, a Gen Y person does that, thinks like that, has that sort of facility. What's another challenge? Software. We're bombarded, aren't we, with all the possibilities. MySpace, Facebook. Somebody yesterday, was it David Wu from Methodist College, was talking about Flickr and the images that were being put up there. We know we've got the commercial software, Blackboard, WebCT, we're all familiar with. We've got the open source software, and in particular we know all Sakai. Oh, that one there is actually the Moodle agents company that works sort of in the Middle East and Northern Africa. And I guess there are references here or implications concerning Second Life. How do we choose what we're going to use? What works? What doesn't work? Even apparently simple investigations, as an institution, you might think, no, we're going to go open source. Yes, there's a few providers. Let's have a look at Moodle and Sakai. Let's develop our criteria, have a little look, see which one's superior, and let's choose that. Well, yes, but it's not that simple. If you look more closely at the two of them, yes, they both provide a learning management system, but Sakai is very different to Moodle. And you'll see this with discussions with the originators of the software that you'll find on the web. For the purposes, for example, at Monash, our academics love Sakai because it's not just a learning management system, it has much broader application across the university, even though it is more complicated. Our researchers love it because it's very suited to international research collaboration and so on. It isn't just a learning management system. Then there may be other criteria that will affect your choice. There's one not listed there that's emerged recently by the name of Chisimba, being developed in Africa because it has very low bandwidth requirements and is continually being developed for that context. So everything, the more closely you look at, the more complicated it gets. And of course that goes for Second Life as well. Hands up those who are on Second Life. Who's got an avatar on Second Life? I won't ask you what your name is, and I'm not going to tell you what mine is. But yes, it's there. Educational institutions are becoming interested. At Monash, we have a Second Life interest group. You'll notice that comes down to SLIG as an acronym, and you can understand why they didn't call themselves the Second Life Users Group. It would have been a rather unfortunate acronym. And they're doing a lot of work in there, and in particular we have from our law faculty someone who's very interested in the law of the internet and some of the legal issues that are happening within Second Life that have implications for both business and education are absolutely fascinating. There's at least a couple of Australian educational providers are there, as well as commercial operations and Telstra. And for example, I think it was Telstra put up a virtual Uluru, you know, the sacred rock in the middle of Australia. Now there are various tribal rules covering Uluru, and if you visit it, you will find that you will be subject to those rules. Now in Second Life, should people still be subject to those same rules even though it's virtual or not? And in fact, they have introduced some, but not all. I think as you walk towards it, you'll be stopped by an invisible wall, but you can actually fly quite closely over it, which you can't do or aren't allowed to do in real life. And this may lead to a legal challenge from the Indigenous community against those putting up a virtual Uluru in Second Life. So things get very complicated. What other challenges do we have? Infrastructure. This isn't Monash's collection of servers, by the way, just in case you were wondering. But how do we underpin our use of technology? What sort of infrastructure do we need for its support for ICT adoption? And it's not a trivial issue, especially as you start to scale things up. We have a particular issue this year at Monash where we have an ageing student email system, and we're faced with the decision, do we either upgrade that system or do we go out to one of the commercial providers? You know, Google will provide free email accounts to all our students. That's a decision we'll have to make this year. Of course, free, that term is used a little bit loosely. We have to look at what are the costs according to various criteria. This is actually taken in our Malaysian campus. As you know, Monash actually has physical presences in a number of countries, including Malaysia and South Africa. I mean, there we have infrastructure problems because of bandwidth issues between Australia and South Africa. So there are all sorts of other challenges that may come under headings like coordination, communication, creativity. How do we foster and encourage the creativity in our staff and in our students? How are we responding so far to that? Okay, so I'm going to give you some brief examples from Monash before we step back to the big picture. Now, the next slide has been prepared by our IT services people that look at the adoption of technology at Monash,